Hey, I'm Tim, the Suburban Dad, and I'm joined today by another Suburban Dad. This is Pete, and we are going to do a blind tasting of the 2021 batches of Booker's. Super exciting. Let's get to it. Well, Pete, I'm glad to be here for your first ever bourbon drink.
Yeah. Yes, ignore the t-shirt that I wore for this special occasion. And, I think you said it best on another video. Any day with Booker's is a good day. So.
Absolutely. So yeah, Pete is also a not only bourbon enthusiast, but Booker's enthusiast for sure. You've tried about how many batches so far?
No, it's not that I'm trying to hit that high of a number. The past couple of years I've tried everything, but that was sporadic before that. I remember absolutely the first batch I tried, which was the Shiny Barrel batch.
Yeah.
So for those that are not familiar with the lore of Booker's, if you ever pick up a box, and I don't know, I'm trying to see if we had one over our shoulder. Nope, we got one next to us. What I love, obviously you have the lovely name, you have here Booker No on the back, so because we like to learn stuff other than drinking, Booker No was the grandson of Jim Beam, and
Sounds
so
right.
He learned the industry, then took over Jim Beam, but he had this idea of doing this unfiltered batches. But he selected different barrels to make these mixtures. Now, what I love the best is if you see this picture, you got his dog there, he's on a rocking chair, and he's just enjoying life. And don't we all want that, really? So I had picked up the Shiny Barrel, and what's so cool is in each one, you have a story of the batch. And maybe just because it's a great story behind it, too. Obviously,
Yeah, they each come with these little cards that give the story behind it, and on the back gives notes about that particular batch.
So they not only tell you where it was in the warehouse, they tell you the mash bill, they tell you the story how they got the name, and I love that about it. The Shiny Barrel was that Booker and then Fred who is running Jim Beam right now, and now Freddie, the youngest, his son, is starting to help, but he knew where all the sweet bourbon was from the middle of the rack house when it aged, because the more portly gentlemen that worked there, they would have their little tube to test it. And whenever they'd go in and test the bourbon, they'd rub their girth, their bellies against it, And so he'd walk through the rack house and see these some had the Shiny Barrels. That's how he knew where the sweetest was. So he made basically the combination was, it was a super sweet, when I say super sweet, it was a very sweet vanilla aroma to it, and it was fantastic. And I got hooked from there.
Nice.
That was a long story long. So
my first batch was 2020-01 Granny's batch, and just picked it up off the shelf because I had seen it online and thought, oh, cool, found it and tried it and was definitely hooked from there. So I've accumulated about 8 or 9, close to 10 different batches by now. I haven't quite tried them all. Tried about 8. So
yeah, I know we were talking about the other day of what batches we have and what batches we don't have, and it becomes hard to find these things out in the wild. So you do want to jump on it. Just a couple other things when we talk about Booker's is it is how it's filtered, how it's put together, and that adds to that flavor. As you can see from these glasses in front of us. So I'm taking over Tim's educational moment because whiskey helps. And you notice it's spelled right. It's got the E in there. Just look at those coloring on it, and that is something you notice in most Booker's is you have that deep copper color. And it's a very strong bourbon. It's a very potent.
Yes.
And I think that's what just adds to the fantastic way to enjoy it.
Absolutely. Uncut, unfiltered, and it's always barrel proof, and each batch is unique. Some of them have somewhat similar profiles, but definitely batch to batch, it's always a surprise. You're never going to have the same batch twice in a row.
And that, it it really does sound silly, but reading about how the batch is done and how it's inspired. So for 2021, you have Donahoe's, you had Tagalong, Bardstown, and then No Strangers. And all of them have a story and a connection to the lore of Booker No, and they're fun to read.
It is fun. It's a cool line. It definitely adds to the experience. So we have all 4 batches here. Blind tasting, our lovely assistant helped pour these, and so we're gonna get a nose on each one, have a little taste neat. So none of these have any water or anything in them so far. After the first sip, if we want to add a little drop of water here and there, we'll do that, but we want to have an unadulterated version first. We'll see if we can guess which one is which and which is our favorite of the year.
Now, I'd asked Tim if there was a prize or if this was a team effort, and of course, the real joy is that I get to be one of his guest stars and really get to drink his Bookers for free. So,
that's right. That is the real prize. So
let's
start with A. It's a good place to start. Like you're saying, all these have really good color on them. I mean, they're not that vastly different. I will say I am definitely weaker at getting a nose than I am the palate.
So some spice with this. Something that I think is in all the Bookers is typically it's a vanilla.
Right.
Is very common in a lot of these.
Yeah, I agree with the spice. Some spice, some oak. A little bit of fruit, but not forward.
No.
More spice and oak, I'd say.
Yeah.
But it definitely has a pretty good nose. It's not super bland.
Legs aren't huge on it, but still get good legs.
All right, ready for try a taste? Here we go.
Definitely a lot more oak. I think than that flavor.
Yeah. Not super fruity, for sure. Yep, oak, spice, cinnamon I'm getting in there.
Really?
Almost like when I smell it, after tasting it, I almost get like a root beer note to it.
Now I'm going to put a little bit of water in there. I like to, especially for the unfiltered ones, I find that they're a lot more, the term is called oily. So if you see something that's a non-filtered, a lot of times it has a lot of those oils in it. And if you put the water in it, you can almost watch the water break up those oils in that. And I think that unlocks a lot of that hidden flavor that you get in the unfiltered ones.
It does. When you drop it in there, it's kind of like a science experiment. You see just this little ring of water in this oily bourbon.
See, now I think once the water's in there, I think it unlocks a lot more of that aroma and hits your nose.
I'm definitely getting more vanilla after the water. Yeah, it's time to.
I'm in school. This time this test is awesome. I'm still getting the oak, but I do get a lot more of that. I don't want to call it like a baking spice because that's hard to say what kind of, but a little bit more of that spice. Should I go ahead and guess which one this is?
Sure.
It's Donahoe's.
You think so?
You think it's either Donahoe's or it's No's, but I think it's Donahoe's.
I think, you're exactly right. It's got to be one of those two, I think. It's definitely not Tagalong.
No.
I'd be extremely surprised if it was Tagalong.
We're going to look dumb if we're wrong on all these.
Hey, I've looked dumb before.
Bad day with Bookers, but it's still good.
Yes. One of my blind tastings before went totally the opposite direction of what I thought.
I think it's the reason why I think that is that overpowering oak. Because,
Donahoe's did have a lot of oak.
And then that's why.
Yeah, I could agree with Donahoe's on that. By the way, do you guys remember Donahoe's way back earlier this year?
It's kind of like your New Year's resolution. It's just gone after the first couple months. I'm already excited about 2022.
I know. Solid first start. That was the thing about the bourbons, the Bookers this year. All of them were good. Some were really good, and some were just pretty good.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us that follow Bookers and how hopefully this gets you some negative comments. Pigskin. Pigskin was the last one of 2020.
Yeah.
And it was not good.
It was not.
And when I say that, it was just thin.
Yes.
And it was not good.
Very weak for a Booker's. Yeah. Absolutely. Both, you could just see it in the color and in the flavor.
And the fact that's the only one you could find when you're out.
Yeah, right. Okay, so on to glass number B. Number B.
Number B.
It's only one glass in. We're doing this.
So much more fruit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, batch to batch, you're going to get way different experience.
Just a wonderful vanilla cherry. Beautiful.
Yeah. Fruit for sure. Yeah, I get the cherry. I see that. Softer. A little more gentle than the last one.
And I would tell you just comparatively, you hear some people talk about, it has this and that, but especially when you compare these two, when we talk about oak, not that it's a bad flavor like we're drinking wood, but you don't have it in this. I don't have it at all, and that's wonderful.
A little bit, it depends on my mood, but I don't tend to go for a ton of oak. A little bit to balance out the palate, but overall, I prefer a little sweeter. All right, so a few drops of water in.
And I mean, not to give away the ending of the two batches I preferred from this year, but it's one of those.
I think I agree. That's the thing. I'll be interested to hear how accurate we are, because I feel like with Booker's they are so distinct. I gotta hope that I can pick them out.
I mean, I would like to say I studied for this test, but I did not.
Yeah, even more fruit after the water drops. Man, I mean, how could this not be Tagalong?
I was just gonna say it's Tagalong.
It's gotta be.
Because I think Bardstown had a little bit more spice in it.
Yeah.
But this is wonderful.
And Nose didn't have nearly the fruit. It had some sweetness, but
I think Bardstown had a little bit of cinnamon in it. This is all fruit and vanilla.
Yeah.
It was my favorite. So yeah, I think this is Tagalong. And the story was my favorite of the year too. Not that matters.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, you think about it, especially as suburban dads.
Right.
We have kids, and so the story talks about, his dad learned the business from following and tagging along with Jim Beam, and that he learned from tagging along with Booker, and his son Freddie learned from tagging along with him. And this is the batch that you just have with friends. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, lots of fruit. Very fruity on that one.
If we're wrong on this, I'm gonna feel really bad.
I know.
I'll punish myself by drinking a bottle of this.
You go home and really study. So far, we're in agreement. We'll see if this lasts.
Well, I do think that there were some similarities between the batches, but like you said, they're typically pretty distinct with some of the notes.
All right, so we're on to glass C. I almost did the number thing again. Now, Santa's little elf was a little more generous with this pour, but
yes, she was.
So it looks a little darker, but truly it's very similar color to the others.
So immediately, fruit. So we could be flip-flop. B could be Bardstown, and this could be Tagalong.
Oh, man. As I'm smelling it, dang.
I'm getting much more fruit and vanilla, but I didn't get the cinnamon with the last one.
I know, I didn't really either.
We're a fraud. That's how.
Yeah, really not. Just a hint of oak on this one. Nothing like glass A, but...
So even though, just so I don't look like a complete cottonhead Niggy Muggins, is that I will say that of the four, Bardstown and Tagalong were much more my speed.
Yes.
Of it.
Same. Going into this, I had a hierarchy already set, but I'm curious with blind taste what it ends up being. This, I think, is Bardstown.
You think?
I think so. Man. Again, first class A, for some reason on the palate, was more harsh to me. These second two have been much smoother.
I would agree with that. First one was, I got the oak. I haven't gotten with this.
Nope.
This one does have a little bit more heat to it.
Not a little more warmth.
Yeah, not when I say heat, I don't mean like alcohol burn.
See, more water brings out more spices to me.
Which was
that would be Bardstown. What do you think?
Well, I don't want to look like a Doofenshmirtz, so I'm not going to change my beer.
Well,
I tell you the greatest thing about Booker's and bourbon in general, it's meant to be shared.
Yes. Cheers to that. See, at the end though, it's much spicier. There's a lot of spice at the end.
Like I said, it's got more of that heat that I feel.
I'm sticking with Bardstown on that one.
I'll agree with you on that one.
Man, I did not realize, and course, we still don't know. But how similarly those two batches taste next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is why it's fun doing blind tasting, because all your conscious bias pretty much goes out the window.
Well, and especially, typically when these are released after we scratch and pull to find them.
Yeah, which is
anywhere.
Becoming an issue now.
You just focus on that one. You don't usually do the comparative.
Right.
And so having the year in review, it's
Yeah.
like a year in review.
Yeah, absolutely. Some fruit, but more spice than I remember Tagalong
I am
having.
getting more spice.
Mm-hmm.
The more I let that water open it up.
It's like those Red Hot candies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I
Very
know exactly what you
cinnamony.
mean.
Like hot, but like in a
Like a
nice
cinnamon.
way, like
Yeah.
a fun way. Not in a ugh.
If we're right with all these, I'm gonna reward myself with going to buy another Booker.
Bookers. Well,
And if I'm wrong, I'm gonna punish myself by buying another Booker, so I do better.
so you do better. That's right. It's a fail-proof system. Last glass, D.
Number D.
Number D.
Number D. Okay.
Okay. Well, even more generous than the last. Okay. Not a ton of fruit.
No.
Little spice. A lot of vanilla, caramel.
Yes, caramel. Absolutely, definitely vanilla right off the bat, but caramel is that other smell in there. Not really oak.
And notice, folks watching, we didn't really talk about a ton of vanilla or caramel so far, even though those are standard like bourbon notes. But within these batches, yeah, there's some degree of those in every one of these, but there's certain notes that really come out in the forefront. And this one, it's
Almost
those
like
two.
a little bit of brown sugar.
Mm-hmm. Cream soda almost.
Yeah. Not that I want to change my answer, but that almost makes me think.
Donahoe's?
One was No Strangers, and D is Donahoe's.
I'm gonna wait till I taste it
Yeah.
before I comment on that. That did not help much.
Now with that, I did get some. I got some oak on the palate.
First one, A, was definitely still the oakiest by far.
I got like a weird moment of almost maybe because I've been eating it, almost like a peanut brittle, like a brittle, like that sweetness of like a brittle.
Yeah, Jim Beam is known for its peanutty profile to it, which there's only been one bottle that I've gotten a strong peanut note. But I can see what you're saying there. All right, let's open this up a little bit. And we're not just swirling to be fancy.
I'm swirling to be fancy.
Pete's trying to be fancy. Part of it, actually, not only does it help mix the water with the bourbon, but also it helps actually open the bourbon even more. It's science, guys. I know it's probably
I
over your
think that
heads,
needs to
but
be your new catchphase on this series. It's science.
It's science.
It's science.
It is science. In between glasses, I've been having Pete sniff coffee grounds to help clear the nose because scent particles stick to receptors in your nose, and when you smell something that's strong that can replace it and knock those other scent particles off, it helps kind of reset your palate, your nose a little bit.
So kids, if you get someone the gift of bourbon, make sure you bring coffee along as well.
That's a great pairing.
Great pairing. We do a blind taste test of coffee. That wouldn't be Suburban Dad.
No, that could be your thing. I'm still feeling pretty confident. I do think this is No Strangers. Because any time that I've gone back to Donahoe's, it is more difficult to drink than the other batches I've had this year. It's just...
Is it the oak, you think? That's what makes it more difficult?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Because oak does have that bitter aspect to it.
And I think, people with the bourbon, that's the uniqueness of that charred oak barrels. It does give it that caramel sweetiness to it. Man,
This one does have some oak.
it does have some.
A had the most, this is second most, and then the middle two didn't have much.
I mean, part of me wants to switch it up just to challenge.
Just to be different.
Just to be different. I moved to the beat of my own drum.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with...
Hey, if you like seeing us try bourbon, make sure you like and subscribe and share it on your social media sites. See, I did that for you.
Man, I didn't...
It's like, that was the price of this.
There we go. That's the least he could do. See, this one I could easily drink this I'm enjoying this more than I did A. Really, I'm kind of taking a dump on A right now. I hope it's not Bardstown, because that was my favorite going into this.
My favorite was Tagalong.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and say this one is Donahoe's, and I'm gonna change this one to No Strangers.
Okay.
I'm gonna go No Strangers.
All
Right. If I'm wrong, I will have this video edited so that I'm right. And even though it's been so long, I should have studied for this and had it beforehand. But I remember Donahoe's not being bad, but I know No Strangers had that higher oak, and maybe I'm just not tasting it, but that caramel in there, I think I'm gonna, yeah. So I'm gonna go No Strangers, Tagalong, Bardstown, Donahoe.
And then Donahoe's. So I'm on A, I had Donahoe's, B, Tagalong, C, Bardstown, like you, and then D, mine's No Strangers.
Well, one of us is wrong.
So if I'm right, then we would have drank those in numerical order of the year.
I don't think Santa's Helper would have done that.
Well, I don't know. Who knows? I don't think so either, but
I mean, it is still the Christmas season.
Tagalong was your favorite of the year. Go ahead and rank them top to bottom for you.
Top to bottom, it would be Tagalong, then Bardstown, then Donahoe, and then No Strangers at the end.
Okay.
I don't know why, and maybe it's just the whole end of the year thing. It seems for the past 2 years, the last batch of the year has been my last on the ranking. Normally, it seems like the first one's the forgotten one. Summer ones typically tend to be sweeter. The summer and fall ones, but man, Tagalongs and Bardstown were just both so good this year. I would say those are on some of the, they're in the medal round for some of the best Bookers I've had. Now Shiny Barrel will always be special to me. I know a lot of people. Kentucky Chew is a huge one for a lot of people. Kitchen Table is another one.
Good. Country Ham. 2019-03.
Country Ham. And so all these have a year and a dump. So it's 01, 02, 03, 04. And then all of them have we'll call it their nickname. And so I will sometimes intermingle. Tim has a better memory than I do when it comes to the years. So, but yeah, this year I thought was better than last year's.
Yes.
Overall, because last year we had what?
Granny's?
Teresa.
Nope. Granny's, Boston, and Pigskin.
Oh yeah, because they only did 3
they
last
only did
year.
3. It was 2020, guys.
Now, if any of you work at Jim Beam or know of Jim Beam and they want to officially sponsor me for Bookers, I'm happy to do that. Get it tattooed on my body, whatever.
If that's what it takes. I mean, sacrifices have to be made.
I'm willing.
So what was your favorite glass of tonight?
Tonight, I will say, as crazy as that sounds, I mean, I love Tagalong, but Bardstown was really good.
That was my favorite. Glass C was my favorite tonight.
And it was that huge amount of fruit and vanilla you got right off the nose, and then you drank it, and it was even more
spicy.
But then there was that cinnamon, like you said, with Red Hots.
Yeah,
that was just, man, that was a perfect pour.
So before this tasting, my ranking went Bardstown, Tagalong, Nose, and Donahoe's. Donahoe's is my least for this year. Well, so it is time for the big reveal, everybody.
Oh, you had it in your pocket.
I have the answers in my pocket.
So if Tim's right, he cheated. We all know that.
All right. Don't cry.
I'm not going to cry.
Oh, stuck.
Uh-oh.
We're already off to a bad start.
Oh.
First one. Holy crap.
I know.
First one was Tagalong.
Which was the one you were dumping. Gosh, okay, so strike one.
Whoa!
Wow. I got to tell you, that surprised me. Tagalong was
so oaky flavored.
I know, which was not something we had.
Whoa.
So, wow.
See? Wow. Blind tastings. 2, or B.
Was no
to be or not to be. Was no strangers.
So it looks like I got A and B mixed. Okay.
Let's hope we get one right.
We're going to get the next one
Letter
right.
C.
It's Bardstown. Boom!
Bardstown.
Which was our favorite of the day.
Nice.
And then that means Donahoe's
true to myself.
Right.
And Donahoe's was D. So you got 2 right. I got 1 right.
Hey, you know what? 50% of the time, I'm right half the time.
Works every time. Wow. Huge upset there.
I am really surprised that we were
Tagalong.
I want to go home and drink some more of No Strangers based upon that. I
Seriously.
Honestly,
wow.
when I first drank it, I got a lot more oak at home. Maybe it's the camera. The camera adds 10 pounds of fruit flavor. I don't know.
Wow. Man, I had the same, very similar result with my blind tasting with the Michter's line.
You got one right here.
I got one right.
So aces to you.
Wow. And hey, it was my favorite, so I know I know what I like.
Well, I'll take the gold medal.
All right. Well, there you have it, everybody. Booker's 2021 in review. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Like Pete said, like and subscribe. Share it. Your friends want to see this, so you need to share it with them.
I'm really thankful I got to be here with you.
I'm thankful too, buddy.
This is a great day, and it's always a great day with Bookers.
Absolutely. Till next time, cheers.